to the Crisis Report. It is December 16th, 2024. This one is targeted Yemen Now Targeted, or Yemen is Next on YouTube. This is the SUBSTAck course where I read from, where you get all of the information written down, links and all that. I'd like to thank Prepper Girl, who's been subscribed to me for, I guess she said a while, but she's got a Substack, and she's been kind of helping me through all that. So, as you know, if you've been around my channel, I'm not real super tech savvy or anything like that, but it's always nice to have people in the background helping you kind of stuff and all that. So, all good. So, I was going to say, where's the chat? There we go. There we go. Thank you, Mark. Good to see you, bud. Mark Elmono, the monkey. You monkey. Yes, it's a Crisis Report, friends. We are going to be doing the things here tonight, talking about Yemen, and there's a terrible shooting in Wisconsin. I've got some info on that. I've got aftermath, that big strike on Tartus. Russians are supposedly leaving out of Syria, but there's some questions on that. Some things are definitely changing in the Middle East. Syria has got some problems. There's a bit of a ceasefire between some of the warring factions, but it seems that ceasefire is now going away, and they're going to continue to go after each other. I mean, Syria is still very volatile, but the problem is where they're at is where there's a lot of oil fields and stuff, so that's a problem right there. More stuff going on in the SMO between Russia and Ukraine. Trudeau is considering possibly stepping down from Canada as PM, and got word late of another high-ranking person in his cabinet who has stepped down. So it's not looking good for Trudeau. Also, Scholz of Germany had a big no-confidence vote today. So there's a lot of things going on. So, if, why don't you strap in and give an ear to me, because I got a lot of things to talk about. It's, the Middle East has kind of chilled. Somehow the Hezbollah Israeli ceasefire has kind of held. I think the Syrian implications were huge. Cutting off supply lines to Hezbollah has been very beneficial to that, at least. And then there's some word that there's going to be more of a focus back onto Gaza. So, and then, of course, as this is titled, Yemen, supposedly, they might be getting the business here real soon. So that's kind of the run-through of everything. This is your Crisis Report, most comprehensive news on YouTube. Yeah. By the way, I got a video over on PrepperNow. I don't know what's going on with that channel, but it's really hitting some home runs. I'm not really doing too much different. The drone thing, of course, has got everybody's fascination, but I'm trying to do that, and also keep just the straight prepping stuff and keep people on their game. As reported tonight, there's a lot of problems going on in our economy and all around us, and it's a wise idea to keep prepping. So always keep that as your focus. That's my focus. All this stuff is going on, and the only remedy is to just keep stocking and stacking and sticking to your plan. That's why I say that from time to time. It's been my credo for, gosh, ever before I had the channel. That stack, stock, stick to the plan has been in my brain since, Lord, almost a decade now. So keep doing it. All right, friends. Well, we are going to get started, and we appreciate you. Thanks for being here. This is your Crisis Report for December 16th, 2024. Taiwan, Republic of China, armed forces have received a new batch of tanks amid heightened tensions with China to defend adequately if Beijing wants to invade the country. Trump will never give Ukraine the American security guarantees it claims, according to the New York Times. According to the newspaper, Trump seeks not only to end the war without taking any responsibility for the defense of Ukraine, but also to reduce U.S. commitments to ensuring the security of Europe as a whole, which, honestly, that was his mandate. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what people hired him for the job to do. People are really sick of war. It should be assumed that there is an unusual deployment of UAP UFOs reported in the U.S. This guy says it happened 16th century over in Nuremberg. You can go back to cave paintings. There's a lot of those going on. I'm not real drone heavy here tonight. Thankfully, it's good to have that story, but that's kind of why I took it back to prepping on that video. It's like, keep your focus. This is all crazy and it's interesting to see, and who knows where it's going, but keep your focus prepping and all that. So, but it's interesting, when a video kind of goes, I don't want to say viral, but goes pretty, gangbusters, for me at least, of the comments. I've got a pretty thick skin now, but now, you get all the people, yeah, you so darn stupid, you stupid, you dumb AF, come on, you stupid, it's like, yeah, I am, I'm stupid, well, you stupid too. Oh, man, I love it, so, yes, I just, as if you've ever seen some of my comments, I get a little sarcastic, so, but, don't try to be mean or whatever. I mean, people are going to say stuff. It is what it is. It's funny, though. So, anyway, speaking of that, CNN was busted for staging the release of a prisoner from Syria who basically later became known as a torturer. He was a torturer for Assad. Wonderful. DJT has said he is going to consider pardoning New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Who knows why? I don't know what's going on with Adams' case, or anything like that, but Adams is definitely going to team Trump, So, anyway. Oh, you like that voice? Go GGS Guardian, or Garden? Gigi's Garden. You like that? You ever heard Jimmy the Stimmy's voice? Before that, we did the PrepperNow and all that credit report, we do the intelligent like I did, and sometimes put the voices out there, and they're that dumb guy out there who like to get all the free stuff from the government, and his name was Jimmy the Timmy, because he want that government money. Yeah, I got all that down. I can do some voices, so anyway. Maybe I'll whip out a little Pelosi later. Poland has become the first EU country to introduce mandatory shooting classes for elementary students. That was when it started the day off. They're giving the kids some weapons, and they're going to teach them to shoot them. And to be honest with you, I think it's great. Germany's Chancellor Scholz lost a vote of confidence in the Bundestag snap elections to be held in February 2025. So, new president of Georgia, who was just elected, having thrown out the old president, French citizen, from the cabinet, declared that Georgia will not join the EU, abandoning its values so far. So a lot of changes in government. Jelani's statement on Israel, this is the new guy of Syria. We want to normalize relations with Israel, but if Israel occupies the Golan Heights, which is an internationally recognized part of Syria, more importantly, violates the agreement between Syria and Israel and seizes the demilitarized zone, this will not be a friendly move. Earlier, Israel justified its presence in Syria by the presence of Hezbollah and Iran, but now that these forces are gone, Israel must end the occupation of Syria. As long as we are here, Hezbollah and Iran will not exist. So there is some, Syria, there's a little bit of a love fest right now between Syria and the rest of the world, but things are going to be changing very, very soon. So, yeah, You're going to have a lot of, you know, that's true, never, Dr. Pepper. Nancy Pelosi's here to pass some laws, as well as some gas after my third Moscow Mule with my favorite Stoli. Yeah, I like doing a Pelosi. God, remember the days? For the old school folks here, remember the and telling it like it is days? Good Lord. Man, that was those were the days. Former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. I'm not going to tell the whole thing here. His first statement, though, he's coming out and kind of doing this, like, walk down memory lane thing. He said, with the expansion of terror in Syria and its arrival in the capital, Damascus, on the evening of Saturday, December 7, 2024, questions began to be risen about the fate and location of the president amidst a torrent of confusion and stories from the truth, which constituted support for the process of installing international terror concealed as a Syrian liberation revolution. As a critical historical moment in the life of the nation, when truth should have a place, there is something that needs to be clarified through a brief statement. These circumstances and the subsequent complete cessation of communication for security reasons did not allow for it to be made, and its brief points do not replace the narration of the details of everything that happened later when the opportunity arises. So he goes in and it's a long post. I'm not going to read that all here. It's on the Substack, of course, PrepperNow.substack.com, but he basically lays out what he did, why he did it, and how he did it. And, he kind of knew that things were going sideways, and he basically went to the Kamimim, or whatever the heck it is, Russian base, and was starting to do operations there, and then said, wait, this is getting kind of cheeky, and he got himself onto a plane, and he rolled out, which, as a leader of a heads of state that's about to crumble and have these HTS folks roll through, he was kind of smart in the way he did it. He sat and posted up the airport saying, you know what, I'm taking the next train out if I have to. So, anyway. I didn't get you your bush tonight. Sorry about that. Pre-opened. Russia must be prepared for a possible war with NATO in Europe in the next decade, according to Russian defense minister. They're all getting ready. The grand show's coming, folks. I don't know when, I don't know where, but it's coming. Russia must be prepared for a direct conflict with NATO over the next decade, President Putin. So they're both saying it. Sirens in Tel Aviv as a result of Yemen's ballistic missile launch. This is what irked the, Israelis. Tired. Time for bed. Donald Trump, Erdogan did an unfriendly takeover in Syria. You could say that. Israel seeking to expand borders through Golan Plan. Turkey. Rescuers raced against time money to reach survivors after a devastating cyclone ripped through the French Indian Ocean territory of Mayotte, destroying homes across the islands. Hundreds feared dead. There was a major earthquake in Vanuatu, I think a 7.4. That happened very late tonight. Syria's Kurds call for an end to all military operations in the country. Why? Because there's a bunch of them that are bearing down. They're going to try and take them out. The United Kingdom has approved the Royal Mail takeover by a Czech billionaire. So that's an excellent temperature check of how the United Kingdom doing. You know you're doing well when your national post is taking over by a dude from another country. So you're doing great, Britain. Israel drops earthquake bomb. Colossal explosion so big it registered on the Richter scale. Hit Syrian coast as airstrikes targeted weapons depots after the fall of the Assad regime. That was the 3.0 yesterday that we covered late in this the major strike on Syria. SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son to announce $100 billion investment in the United States during a visit to President-elect Donald Trump's residence Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. Evidently, Trump came out and said, "Hey, why don't you let's do this? Why don't you give us $200 billion?" Or was it million or billion? Yep, billion. Canada Deputy Prime Minister quits over riff with Trudeau on Trump tariffs. Ruh-roh. Justin Trudeau is having problems in Canada, but as long as he is inclusive, he will win. Russia and Iran should, that's my Trudeau, Russia and Iran should not have a place in post-Assad Syria, according to EU's Callus. Bitcoin price at a new high of $107,000. President-elect Trump, I will keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for American families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. Trump urges SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son to double the investment. He's like, hey, won't you give us $200 billion, huh? Trump is letting Ukraine missile strikes in Russia, allowing Ukraine to use these missile strikes in Russia is a big mistake, and he may reverse letting them to use those things. I mean, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's, they need to go in there and they need to negotiate all this stuff and get it done. Just say, look, you lost the eastern portion of your country. Sorry about that, but let's stop the mayhem and the death and the destruction. Russia has evacuated at least 400 troops from Damascus following its takeover by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Withdrawal coordinated with HTS included nearly 100 vehicles heading to Hamadan Air Base, I can never pronounce that name, before flying back to Russia. Taiwan has received its first batch of 38 M1A2T Abrams tanks from the United States, part of a total order of 108. Marks Taiwan's first new tank delivery since 1994. Wow. Damascus. Shop owners display a banner stating that Iran exploited Palestinian resistance to spread sectarianism in Arab nations, but the plot is now exposed. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, when the Syrian opposition was active in Damascus 6 to 7 years ago, Biden, then vice president, visited Turkey and told our president we don't want Bashir to leave. We knew this wasn't his view, but Israel never wanted Bashar gone. While unhappy with the space he gave to Iranians, Israel saw Bashar as a beneficial actor overall. Well, let's see that. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaya Kallas said we will send a diplomatic envoy to Syria today to communicate with the new government. Actions of the new regime in Syria in the coming weeks will determine our steps. Excuse me. Germany faces a potential irreversible economic crisis, says Bloomberg. Over 5 years of stagnation, its economy has shrunk by 5% compared to pre-Rona growth rates. Key factors include high energy costs, falling exports, and rapid deindustrialization. Households have lost up to 2,500 euros annually, while major firms like ThyssenKrupp plan layoffs and closures. Auto industry risks losing 40% of its value in a decade, with production shifting abroad. Experts warn that the economic model underpinning Europe's stability is crumbling, despite low public debt offering room for investment. Neither the ruling party nor the opposition has proposed solutions. So, problems. Olaf Scholz's party included a ban on transferring Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine in its election program. Meanwhile, SPD supports the future deployment of U.S. long-range missiles in Germany and increasing defense spending, at least 2% of the GDP. Russia's State Duma proposes reintroducing Soviet-style food rationing cards nationwide. Kamchatka already uses cards for fish, and Kaliningrad plans to provide them to pensioners by 2025. Problems going on. Iran faces an energy crisis. Daily gas shortages of 300 million cubic meters. Power deficits 20,000 megawatts. Widespread shutdowns of schools, banks. Daily 2-3 hour power cuts have been implemented. Reliance on natural gas for electricity has forced increased use of heavy fuel, worsening pollution. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Turkey, says we strongly condemn Israel's decision to expand illegal settlements on the occupied Golan Heights since 1967. The move marks a new phase in Israel's goal of expanding its borders through occupation, combined with its violations of the 1974 disengagement agreement, incursions into the buffer zone, and airstrikes in Syria, Israel's actions are deeply concerning. Such steps undermine efforts to establish peace and stability in Syria and escalate regional tensions. International community must respond and ensure that Netanyahu government ends its illegal activities. Kiev regime is losing signs of statehood, according to Putin. German Foreign Ministry says that Israel is an occupying power on the Golan Heights. Another day in 2024. Turkey is behind the overthrow of President Assad's government in Syria, says Trump. United States State Department announced that they are in communication with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham regarding the principles announced by Blinken regarding the transition in Syria. Russia will lift its self-imposed restrictions on deploying intermediate range and shorter range missiles if the United States begins deploying such systems, according to Putin. London Stock Exchange suffered its biggest exodus since the financial crisis. London Stock Exchange is on course for its worst year for departures since the global financial crisis of 2008-2009. 100 businesses are going to quit. Total 88 companies have delisted or transferred their primary listing from London, only 18 taking their place. Marks the biggest net outflow of companies from the main market since 2009, while the number of new listings is also on course to be the lowest in 15 years, as initial public offerings remain scarce and bidders target London-listed groups. Exodus has continued despite efforts by the UK government, regulators, and the LSE to boost the city's attractiveness by reforming market rules and domestic pension system. It goes on from there. I read this over on to PrepperNow because, everything's just fantastic these days. But more UK companies are thinking about moving to the US because, well, it's just crappy over there. Europe is in dire straits because of really crappy leadership, to be honest. Multiple people, this is what happens when you listen to Klaus. You listen to dudes like that whose whole purpose is to make you wear strange clothes and live in a city that's a prison. I mean, I don't know, maybe not be the best. Humans have this tendency to desire freedom. So when you kind of take that away, they tend to get a little pissed off. Multiple people injured after shooting an Abundant Life Christian school in Madison. Madison Abundant Life Christian School shooting. Madison Police Chief Barnes reported there were several deaths. Children were among those taken to the area hospitals. 2 killed. I think it's now 3. Spokeswoman during the briefing gave a revised figure of 5, but the police department later clarified that those figures were not correct. This one hits home for me, guys, because my kids go to a Christian school. It is probably very similar to what this Abundant Life Christian School is. These places are special. The teachers that work there are incredible. My 10-year-old little girl was suffering from Rona, the aftermath of online learning, because it happened her first grade year, so she didn't properly learn to read. We're very proud to say that about 3 weeks ago, she got a new test because she's done basically intervention for the last 4 years. And she is up to grade level. And the reason why is because this wonderful school that they go to, where they have worked their tails off, keeping her after school. And, she's worked her tail off. But it's these people that work there, and they can work in a public school and make probably twice as much as they do there, but they go there and they love on these kids and they care for them and they give them like a really wonderful experience that isn't found in most of the other school systems out there. So this is incredibly, it's just sad on so many levels. First and foremost, because children died. But second of all, this is, I've got the whole thing, and I'm coming up to it. But, I mean, this is just, emblematic of a sick society. So I don't know the exact intentions. There is a manifesto out there, And of course, there is the reek and stench of leftism that is underlying all of this. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm not going to go too much further on what I think the intentions are. But I don't know. It's sad to see this. It's just sad to see it. So, Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is considering resigning. TikTok files emergency appeal with Supreme Court to block U.S. ban unless it's sold. Trump is meeting with TikTok CEOs, according to CNN. There have been a total of 323 U.S. school shooting incidents this year. Now, this is according to CBS, and if you know anything about gun data, and I do because I had to study it, school shooting incidents can mean anything. It could be a couple of D-bags on a Sunday afternoon that are literally like on a playground and there's no kids in school. So this number is deceptive. Now, I'm not minimizing or taking away from the terrible things that happen, but like anything, there's lies, damn lies, and there are statistics. So I can tell you that gun violence is down by about 50% from the early 1990s. The murder rate is basically halved to what it was in the 1960s. I can give you all the data you could ever want and also consider of all this because we live in a country of 340 million people, or whatever the heck it is. So the rates are all going down. In fact, you can lock it in. 97% of all municipalities and areas of the country are totally fine. It's that 3% that make up the almost 95% of everything. It's the Cook County, Chicago counties and stuff like that. They make up the vast majority of all gun violence. And most places in America are incredibly safe. Whenever we have to go through these drills and crap at school, kids always get worried and freaked out. And I look them in the eye and say, you have a more dangerous path to school in your vehicle than some idiot coming in here and doing this to you. Just always keep that in mind. You're a heck of a lot more chance of getting in a wreck and hurting yourself than anything like this. So, terrible that all this has happened. It shouldn't happen at all, but perspective is always perspective. Radioactive material went missing in New Jersey earlier this month, fueling conspiracy theories that it could be linked to the mysterious drone sightings. You read the story and you go through it, as my homeboy, some random dude, pointed out to me earlier. It was a category 3 and it's like not even harmful to life. So I don't think this really has anything to do with it. I think it's a clickbait story to really put it out there. So it's well timed and yeah, it'll get the clicks and all that, but it's really a non. I don't think this is anything. Our assessment is the stages of the activity represents commercial, hobbyists, and law enforcement drones, all operating legally and lawfully. That is according to John Kirby, who's saying there's nothing to see up there. Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, announces that Trump's administration mass deportation will begin with violent criminals. Excellent. 5 people were killed in a shooting in Abundant Life. We all know that it's now 3. I don't know exactly how many were injured, but still, however many is too many. Israeli airstrikes against Latakia, Syria. By the way, anybody comes here and say, we get on that whole kick on how we stop it. You want to stop these kind of things? Arm the teachers. Flat out. You want to stop it? Make it so the teachers have lock boxes in their room or at least some kind of armory, and they are trained with their weapons and everything else and have full plate carriers and everything. So as the first whiff of any of this happened, they lock those children in a fleet of some bad you-know-whats go out there and eradicate and neutralize any kind of a threat. You mark my words. If they thought that they were going into that kind of a situation, you mark my words. These will go away pretty quickly. So, Israeli airstrikes against Zainab, Damascus, and of course Latakia are ongoing. 60 liberals MPs signed a letter urging Trudeau to resign. Drone crash in an airfield in Nantucket Memorial Airport last night. New York Police Department found a huge drone in Brooklyn belonging to a company called Emoji. Ansarallah continues their operations against Israel alongside the Islamic resistance in Iraq and Hamas. Ballistic missile launched to Tel Aviv from Yemen. Ballistic missile alert in Tel Aviv. European Union has adopted a 15th sanctions package against Russia, adding 52 vessels from the Shadow Fleet, attempting to bypass Western restrictions on oil, arms, grain, brings a total of 79 listed vessels. New package includes sanctions on 84 individuals and entities, including 7 from China. So this is a Mediterranean man about this whole thing going on in Syria. And he's questioning himself. There's a lot of people. There's what he described as a Twitter civil war going on between all the resistance people and all that. And, excuse me. He said people are pissed at what's going on with Syria. And there's a lot of them that are kind of tired of these, in their minds, weak sauce leaders of these Arab countries that are basically allowing their public to get the crap kicked out of them by Israel and American and Western forces. So he says this about it. He admits that Iranian militias in Assad were a threat to Israel, and since they've been toppled and kicked out, Israel has no excuse to be hostile to Syria and occupy Syrian land, word for word. He says that he is committed to the 1974 Syrian-Israeli agreement. He says that the attacks against Israel will not be launched from Syria. He says, no wonder he's only doing interviews like this with Western media outlets. Arab biomass would eat him alive. Basically saying that if this dude were to go out in the public of the run-of-the-mill resistance person, he'd be getting run out on a rail if he even made it that far. North Korean troops describing their first encounter with Ukrainian FPV drones said, drone, keep coming down. Oh, Kwang, boom, boom, pointing a gun with that for in Russia. I don't know what it is. So basically, they've never seen drones before. These North Korean soldiers are getting a little taste of what it's like. Asked if Ukraine should cede territory to Russia, Trump says there's nothing there, no buildings, no people returning. It's just rubble. Trump added that the rebuilding Ukrainian cities would take about 100 years. I mean, if you've seen footage, he's not incorrect. I mean, it is literally just wasted cement crumbles. FBI warns the public not to point lasers or attempt to shoot down suspected drones in Jersey. Don't do that, folks. Judge Merchan upholds Trump's 34 felony convictions despite presidential immunity ruling from SCOTUS. What a jerk. If you're a judge and you're going against the Supreme Court, you should be disbarred. You know, what the hell is the point of having the Supreme Court? You want to fight it in court and go through the legal paths to do it? Fine, but if you are there and they say that the dude's immune, you can't sit there and like push your little shitty political agenda through because you've got a little power corner of the world. I don't know. That guy is just all of them. That other dude that was sitting there laughing at the camera back. You remember back in like early summer when these butt heads were sitting there all happy and giddy that they were getting their leftist resistance on and all that? Well, now where are you? Yeah, this is where you've been reduced to. And you know what? People are just tired of it. It's petty. Senate Democrats introduced a bill to abolish the Electoral College, claiming it will save democracy. We're going to save democracy. We're going to save democracy. Yeah, idiot. It means that it's Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Denver, San Francisco, Seattle, and Miami will be the only places, and maybe like Houston and Dallas, be the only places that people will campaign. They're not going to care about Wyoming. They're not going to care about New Mexico. They're not going to care about West Virginia. They're not going to care about even friggin' Minnesota or Wisconsin. It's an idiot move. But what do you expect from these people? Letter signed by 123 retired generals and admirals went public in support for Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. Ukrainian foreign minister called Hungary's proposals for a Christmas ceasefire immoral manipulations. And when the foreign agents of the German DW write that the Ukrainian MFA has refused a ceasefire, apparently never, they only quickly cook up fakes. Basically, they're saying that there's not going to be a Christmas truce. So, Syrian organization claims Israel's nighttime attacks were the most severe in the Syrian coastal region since 2012. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which from what I understand is like some guy that lives in London, okay? And so they put him into this thing called, I mean, I've always heard that, like, if you really know who this guy is, he's just some pro-Western Syrian dude that was promoted by intelligence agencies so their ideas could get across from the supposed Syrian lens. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard from multiple channels. So he reported that Israel carried out massive airstrikes last night against military sites in Tartus. Israeli warplanes carried out raids in several sites, including air defense, surface-to-surface missile depots. The attacks were described as the most severe since 2012. So, pretty rough. After the expulsion of Hamas, now comes the expulsion of the Houthis. According to Arab reports, the U.S. has ordered Oman to expel Houthi leaders from its territory, according to approximately 100 senior Houthi officials, headed by Mohammed Abd Salam, who heads the Houthi organization's negotiating team, have left or intend to leave the Sultanate soon, most likely for Iran. American move is intended to increase pressure on the Houthis to accept the roadmap, i.e., we're going to put our boot in your butt and you're going to take it. If the Houthis do not get the hint, a major attack is expected against them with the aim of overthrowing their rule. So you might as well put war with Yemen on your bingo board at this point, folks. Egypt and Jordan are terrified that the Islamic Revolution will reach them as well. Therefore, Egypt has informed Syrian citizens who have been residing in its territory for decades that they must fly back to Syria. From now on, any move by a Syrian in Egypt will require a security clearance. As long as it was about the rise of the Shiites, the Sunni dictators were less bothered, but this time it is the Sunni revolution, and Egypt and Jordan are full of Sunni jihadi Islamists. So, see what happens there. Iran was forced to shut down several power plants in the country due to fuel shortages, high demand for the winter, money for rockets, missiles, and drones. For their terror groups, they have money for the welfare and their people that they don't. Netanyahu's testimony in his trial, scheduled for tomorrow, was canceled again due to his request. The entire Middle East is in suspense. It is about a special operation in Iran, Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, or is it time for Yemeni drug-using Houthis to pay their price for attacking Israel? A little Captagian for you. Israel is getting ready to attack Yemen. This is Amir Sarfati. If he says it, he's got approval from the Israeli government, and it's coming. Israeli airstrikes on Latakia. Latest, 3 dead in the shooting in the private Christian school Madison. Police say a student opened fire at a private Christian school Monday. Killing 2 people in the final week before Christmas. I've got a long post on this to come. I'm not going to read it. I've got the person's name and everything, supposedly. I'm not going to read it. But you can go to the PrepperNow Substack or to my Subscribe Star on Locals where I put it out. Airstrikes pound Sana'a, capital of Yemen. Conflicting reports. Who is responsible? Various sources saying Israel and others saying the USA. U.S. CENTCOM claims responsibility for the latest strikes on Sana'a. Argentina's economy exits recession in a milestone for President Javier Milei, touting him over on PrepperNow. The guy is really taken the libertarian mindset, employed it to Argentina, and besides some butthurt government officials that don't have a job anymore, he's really turning things around for him. We can report the deceased mass shooter of Abundant Life is a 15-year-old girl named, I'm not going to name it here. She carried out the shooting at the school library, according to a source. She uses the name Sam online, and her username was Crossixer. She had an extensive online obsession with these people, particularly the 1999 Columbine high school shooting. Big fan of KMFDM, which, if you know your music, it stands for Kill Mother Effin' Depeche Mode, which was also referenced by one of the Columbine shooters. She often wore the shirt of the band. So another disturbed youth. Clarissa Ward's CNN, but we gotta remove the guns. Remove the guns. Yeah, I'm sure she got it legally. Clarissa Ward's CNN report came under scrutiny, and local fact checkers found that Ward's story was fabricated. Ward misrepresented an Assad intelligence officer as a victim of Sadnia prison. This is the big human rights violator one where they tortured people. CNN is trying to salvage the situation with a new report. It's CNN. What do you expect? Ukrainian Ministry of Energy called on citizens not to turn on powerful electrical appliances. Same time to save electricity. Authorities also again asked for electricity imports from Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, and Moldova. After 3 months of fighting in southern Lebanon, IDF's 98th Division is being redeployed to the Gaza Strip. Military says the elite formation of paratrooper and commando units completed its operations in Lebanon on Wednesday last week and is now readying for future missions in Gaza. All right, so this is the SMO going on in Russia with Ukraine from the lens of the Ministry of Defense of Russia. Evidence of North Korean troops in the direction of Kursk is growing after several recordings showing hordes of soldiers storming along the fields. It can be assumed that these are North Koreans. Tactics do not match the Russian approach to date. According to previous reports, the North Koreans are said to be acting separately from the Russians. Supports this theory. In the direction of Velika Novosilka, the Russians succeed in making two breakthroughs. On the one hand, the Russians create an encirclement around Makarivka. Through the last attacks and geolocalized images prove the presence of the Russians in Novi Komar. South of Kharkov, the Russians manage a position themselves just before the village of Zelenivka. Russians control most of the entire area along the river. Medium-term goal could be the capture of the village of Dashnya so that the Ukrainians are forced to leave the power plant in Kharkov. This would prevent a second Azovstal. For those that don't remember, Azovstal is that metalworking plant in 2022 where these guys embedded themselves deep in this thing and then eventually were extracted, but it was a bloody battle, to say the least. Furthermore, the Russians are advancing westward in the direction of Pokrovsk and are getting closer to the Dnepropetrovsk Oblast by the day. And that is what's going on there. Bad Vlad, president of Russia, says the number of U.S. forces in Europe has exceeded 100,000. Putin said the U.S. plans to deploy high-precision, intermediate-range missiles, raising concerns with Russia. And because of this, Russia is now forced to take additional measures to ensure its security. Putin also says Russia intends to respond to the possibility of the U.S. deploying medium and short-range missiles in Europe and Asia. SDF statement, U.S.-led mediation efforts to declare a government truce or permanent truce in the Manbij and Kobani regions were unsuccessful due to Turkey's approach in dealing with the mediation efforts and its evasion to accept key points. These points included the transfer of remaining Manbij military council fighters and civilians wishing to move to safer areas within north and eastern Syria, as well as a resolution of the issue concerning the transfer of Suleiman Shah's remains to their former location. Despite U.S. efforts to stop the war, Turkey and its mercenary militias have continued to escalate over the last period. Could be the start of a new round of fighting for oil, which is abundant in these SDF-controlled areas. And that is Middle East Spectator. He knows his stuff. Hebrew newspapers, Mariv and Yedioth Ahronoth, estimate that Netanyahu will not dismiss Ben-Gvir from the government. Netanyahu will not rush to fire him, even though he voted against the budget. Third-gen Banderite Chrystia Freeland has resigned from her position as Deputy Prime Minister of Canada. Big news. Trump is threatening the Palestinians once again in the name of Israel. If the abductees don't return by the time I enter the White House on January 20th, it is not going to be pleasant. So he's shaking his fist. And Wall Street Journal thinks the U.S. should show people how to end humanity. Yes, the U.S. should show it can win a nuclear war. Washington might study Cold War-era practices that had a major effect on Soviet policy making. And, of course, Bitcoin has set a new record of $107,000. There you go. That is your crisis report. December 16th, 2024. Now we got some voices. You got to hear Nancy. You got to hear, remember Jimmy the Stimmy? Wow, that's been a while. Gosh, I'll end with one. How about Greta? Remember Greta Thunberg? I used to do her. That's the worst thing about war is it's not really good for the environment, right, Greta? How dare you? How dare you ruin the earth with your war? All right, friends, we're going to cut it off on that. God bless. Hit that like button. Do the subscribe thing. Thank Nancy Pelosi for being a patron of vodka. Hopefully she heals up soon. I don't wish any ill will on anyone like her. Subscribe, Star Locals, all the usual stuff. Links in the description. Yep. Things are not that good, so they're going to sit there and make you think that they are good, but they're not. So we will keep covering here the most comprehensive news on YouTube. God bless you all. And as my homeboy conserve friend says, prep and pray, folks. We'll see you on the next one.